Hello, everybody. It's Dr. Boz here on Tuesday night. Have I got a great show for you tonight? This woman came into the Dr. Boz space with a hemoglobin A1C of over 10. That's an average blood sugar of 250 plus. Her doctor said, you have to go on insulin. This is a must. And she said, but wait, I'm going to try to do this without medication. And her doctor was really upset. She said, nope, I'm not going to let you do that. In the end, she gave her 4 months. I'll give you 4 months. If that blood sugar is not down in 4 months, I am starting you on insulin. And 4 months later, her hemoglobin A1C is 6.5. That's an average blood sugar of 140. And now she says, I want to reverse my insulin resistance and not be on any medications. That means her hemoglobin A1C needs to go even further, an average blood sugar of mine. I don't think she knows what she's signing up for. I don't think she understands what it means to have insulin resistance and diabetes to the point where her A1C was 10 January 1st. And although she has had amazing success, I'm going to show you tonight what it means to reverse insulin resistance. I get this question a lot, and they are often people with this kind of a history. Maybe not an A1C of 10, but they have had insulin resistant for years. And the hidden answer is something that my nurse and I have had an up close and personal ability to see over the last 12 weeks. You're going to learn a lot. Stick around. This is going to be one of my favorite shows of 2025. Let's get to some updates for the folks watching. First of all, thank you for logging in, for praying for our friend Patrick V last week. If you didn't watch the show last week, it was also a good show, but it was nothing like what we're going to get into tonight. If you're new to my channel, this might be a little heavy. But I'm super excited about it. So, and I know that Patrick V is going to want to watch from this. Patrick V is a man who's been visiting the channel, helping with the channel, empowering me, really inspiring me to say this is possible. And much like this patient we're going to talk about tonight, Patrick V wins as one of the top patients in my experience of being privileged to watch his story. But right before the show last week, Patrick had a spinal cord injury, and he's already had a stroke in his brainstem, so was very fragile with what his mobility was, and he landed right on top of his head, a major spinal cord injury. We weren't sure if he was going to have the ability to walk. As you can see in this picture, he is walking. This is a few days ago. Yesterday, he was walking with a walker, and this picture today with these blocks, that is what he built with his weakest hand. Again, that balance for somebody with a Pons stroke, where his brainstem stroke was, and then to have this spinal cord injury right in that upper spinal cord, his balance and his coordination has been off, but he was able to stack those blocks 10 high, and that is showing you what the power of prayer looks like. So thank you for praying for Patrick. Again, he is watching tonight, so if you are in the comments, even if you don't know Patrick, please write your prayers for him. He can't type yet, which again, he was the guy who helped us run our channel. So I say this with the most delicate heart that he'll type again someday, but right now he can send me voice memos and he can read. So if you have any connection or have ever been blessed to know Patrick, or if not, continue to pray that his injury completely reverses in that high spinal cord injury. And he's watching right now, so I would love for everybody to do that. All right, well, I think that the person tonight that does deserve another shout out is this brave woman who showed up at the Pin Chasers. Again, if you don't know what the Pin Chasers is, I must say a super shout out today because I practiced this message with the Pin Chasers this morning. And there were a lot of questions. It might take me 2 weeks to get through this kind of level, but we're going to start with this approach because those folks that showed up at the bowling alley. Yes, a bowling alley called the Pin Chasers here in Tampa. I do a free support group every Tuesday morning at 8 o'clock, and there are some tried and trusted and true friends that continue to come to that. They teach me, and then like this morning, they help me see Oh, I'm going too far, too fast on the first message. So thank you for showing up this morning. If this message lands like I hope it does, you need to say thank you for the people who were tortured this morning at the Pin Chasers, where I was going a little too far. All right, let's get to it, because I think it is going to take a hot minute, and I am looking for questions at the end. We, again, take live questions. I've got a team standing by. In fact, I told my nurse, who has been watching the front line of this 12 weeks of microdosing GLP-1 and GIP for our patients, and watching to see, is insulin resistance reversible in them? Are they getting to the point of reversible? And then what's the criteria for that? So you're going to learn that tonight. She's been in the front, said, I've had so many of the patients ask these questions that we gave them a special heads up that come watch what this is going to be about. I think we'll all learn a lot. I've learned a lot by watching their numbers and by hearing these stories from my nurse too. All right, so let's get over to these Loom slides. All right, I'm going to start with this demonstration. So right there, that hemoglobin A1C of 11.5, average blood sugar of 283. That's a lot. And as you watch that blood sugar come down, that A1C of 10 go to 250, that A1C of 7.5 go to 170, that A1C of 6.5, which is where this woman is today, can't quite see it on that slide there, is 140. So her A1C did go down in 4 months from an incredibly high blood sugar to one that's still high enough to cause disease. But I contend there are other things that are happening that really, I think your doctor is going to be very impressed by. But she's not done yet. In order for her to get the next layer, to take a blood sugar from 137 down to a hemoglobin and A1C that is equivalent to one that doesn't have diabetes, that's closer to an average blood sugar of 100, an average blood sugar of 97. And I will show you some examples tonight. One of them will be mine of when I've not been willing to say that I have reversed my insulin resistance, and when I'm willing to say that for patients and for myself. All right, so let's just remind you, what is a hemoglobin A1C? This is a red blood cell. That red blood cell, if you can see, I've got a little bitty hint here. That's the skin of the red blood cell. We're going to pull back the door so you can see inside that red blood cell, and there's a bunch of hemoglobin. That hemoglobin is filled with oxygen, and the oxygen is how your body gets, these hemoglobin rides is how your body gets oxygen throughout the system. But in somebody with diabetes or somebody who's had high blood sugar, we know that those oxygen get displaced with sugar. So if we displaced 6, and I know her A1C was 6.5, but we're going to use whole numbers here. Out of 100 parking spots, 6% of them, when you have a hemoglobin A1C of 6, are full of gum. They're full of sugar. They're glycated. And when 6 out of 100 are glycated, we know that if your red blood cells last 100 days, which is the average for most people, that the blood sugar that's in your system is around 126. And because that lifespan of that red blood cell is so stable, and it is an irreversible bind. Once that sugar binds to that spot on your hemoglobin, you cannot undo it. You have to wait for the life cycle of that red blood cell to turn over. That a hemoglobin A1C of 6 is an average blood sugar of 126. That's not quite where our patient was when she had last checked a week or so ago with her A1C. She was at 6.5, which is an average blood sugar of about 140. She just wants to go down by 1. She wants to take one of those 1 percentage point. No problem, right? Look at how much I've improved in the last 4 months. This will be no problem. So when there's only 5 seats that are gummed up by sugar because her average blood sugar is now 97, it's not that much difference, is it? But this is where I get so many questions coming into the channel, so many people saying, well, why is it that way? Well, yeah, when will I be better? When will my insulin resistance be gone? And as the folks that have left the 21-day adventure, that class that is really one of my favorite things to do. We only do it twice a year. We have 200 students. That's all we take. And when those seats fill up, we close the class. But it is the best investment of learning how to do this and getting those medications to be reversed by your physician. So here's what we're going to look at. So I'm going to start by showing you healthy. And by healthy, I mean there is, this is what it looks like when people do not have insulin resistance. So these numbers come from a couple of studies. We'll put those studies in the show notes. I'm going to change this so that you guys can see a little better about what these numbers are about to do. So you've got that this chart that has the glucose off to the side, and I want you to see that the bottom number here is at 80. Okay, so 80 blood sugar is the lowest. You're going to see the highest is 200. And when I have patients that come into my clinic that have never had insulin resistance, or the ones that have reversed it, this is what their blood sugar curves look like. So first of all, they start out in the morning fasting, or I would even say before they eat again, they're wearing a continuous glucose monitor. We have studies that show this, but now today, you don't need to be in the study to figure this out. You do need a continuous monitoring of your glucose to say, well, what happens? So this little point right here, that is less than 90. This is the rules that are in these papers. I'll show you in the show notes, but it is also something that as a clinician, pattern recognition for which patients reverse their insulin resistance, which patients are truly not acquiring diseases at the rate that they were. Okay, so this is what healthy looks like. That blood sugar starts out at a fasting number less than 90. And then the blood sugar after the meal, when you get to the 30-minute mark, you have a blood sugar of less than 140. So this peak right here at 30 is less than 140. That is what it looks like to be healthy. You get to the 60-minute mark and you have a blood sugar of less than 130. And then you get to the 90-minute mark and you have a blood sugar of less than 110. And this isn't because I've seen one or two patients with this. This is because, in 25 years, thousands of patients, but specifically seeing patients with a continuous glucose monitor to say, is it gone yet? Is it gone yet? Did I reverse it? And much like what this lady is trying to do is she wants to reverse these medical problems. Okay, here's what you're saying yes to. Because she can see her glucose, but what has always been a difficult part for patients to understand, because we don't check this. This next curve that you see, you can get done in a lab. In fact, even if you had this done in a lab, it's not going to be as accurate as what the papers were done that will show you pathology. We'll do that in a minute. Meaning I'll be able to do this and show you an answer, but your doctor won't be able to, I'm doing something there. Oh, there you go. I'm touching a key that I don't know I'm touching. You won't be able to do this in their clinic. So here's what this is about. This is what happens with insulin. So again, this healthy patient not having insulin resistant, what is their fasting insulin? It's 6. Okay. It is in the single digits, around a handful. It's very low. They eat a meal and the insulin rises. But at the 30-minute mark, it is less than 40. So less than 40, that's where 40 would be. When they get to the 60-minute mark, it would be less than or equal to 30, right around 30. And that's where that one would be. The next one at 90 minutes is less than 20. Their insulin is back down to under 20. That's what healthy looks like. These curves are not from one patient, but hundreds of patients. And then the study that you'll see, which uses an advanced ability to look, which is an insulin clamp, keeping blood sugars stable, then watching how that healthy person without insulin resistance is able to hold a blood sugar and how much insulin does it take to do that. Really cool stuff I couldn't do even if I wanted to. All right, so there's that. Let's go to this one. I think I'm going to need to get out of the way. So here we have the patient that we're talking about whose hemoglobin A1C is 6.5. She's doing so great. And she has lowered her average blood sugar from, average blood sugar was what, north of 250 when we started? And now her average blood sugar is around 140. Okay. When she wakes up in the morning, she still has an impaired fasting glucose, meaning her blood sugar is not healthy yet. And hers is around, 110-ish before she eats. When she eats, that blood sugar shoots up to 160 at the 30-minute mark. Again, this is the good stuff. This is the average blood sugar of the 140. When she gets to 60 minutes, that blood sugar is even a little higher, like 180-ish. When she gets to 90 minutes, that blood sugar is still elevated at I would say 150. And I want you to notice this. I'm going to show you my blood sugars from September of this year. And I keep in mind, this 90-minute mark is at 150 here, like 150. What's it supposed to be? Yeah, if you remember, it was supposed to be less than 110. Okay, that's what healthy looks like. All right, okay, so let's see if I think I need to take these away to do the next advancement. Let me just make it easier for you. Okay, so the final one there is that, what was it, at 2 hours? And I mean, it should be far lower than that. We just went to the 90 minutes for the healthy people because it is back down to where it should be. So let's now say, what is her fasting insulin? Her fasting insulin is closer to 20. And then it shoots up when she has a meal. Again, what kind of meal is it? Well, it's the kind of meal she's been eating to lower her blood sugar from the average of, 250 to an average of 140. So there are hardly any carbohydrates in there. This is not a glucose tolerance test. This is what's happening when you eat. And you have changed so many things. She has done such a good job of getting the carbohydrates out, having those, no processed foods, not eating late at night, really working at some of the things we talk about on this channel. 30 minutes in, though, her insulin is pathologic. That's way too high. That's 70, 65 or something. When she gets to the hour mark, her insulin is over 100. Again, way too much. But she doesn't know that. She just gets to see what her glucose has been, right? So she gets down to the 90-minute mark, and it's still at 90 minutes, it's an insulin of 90. She's not measuring this. We just know that that's what hers is doing. And now at 120, she is still way too high on the insulin factor to be reversing these medical problems. Again, why does she want to not go on insulin? Why is she on the ketogenic diet? Why is she leaning into all this? Because she has several medical problems brewing her way. And that's not gonna go away anytime soon. So hang tight. Before we go, we're going to show you what let's go to the Loom website. Yeah, this is it. All right, so I'm going to show you my blood sugars and give you, I think it's going to work here, that when I hover here, oh yes, that's what I want. Okay, so remember those times. Okay, if you're in the chat and I'm answering these, I'm watching the chat while we do this, even though it's not on the screen. I want you to notice this was before the hurricane. Now, this is a Dexcom's dashboard where I can see that I was wearing a Stello and I was wearing a Dexcom G7, this one right here. So I have two numbers here, but the point isn't so much that I mean, actually, it is a big point. It's why I wore several of these at the same time. Stello, you cannot. This is the one you can buy over the counter without a prescription, but you cannot calibrate it. And if you're just looking to say how high does my sugar go, what's one thing, but I'm trying to show you, how do I reverse insulin resistance? Well, you need to know the number. You need to know, is your blood sugar below 90 before you eat in the afternoon? And that's one of our take homes that we're going to get to in a minute. So here's me. This is Friday, September 20th. It is 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and I try not to eat late, but look what happened here. So here's a 4:30, and I ate, right? So even if I go to the lower one at 68, at 4:30 at 30 minutes, 5 o'clock. So that's 30 minutes. It says on the lower one, which was the Stello, I think, that my blood sugar's fine. When I look at the upper one, let's go to the upper one. It was, so this is definitely confusing. Oh, no, that was the upper one. Okay, so I get to the 30-minute mark, and am I less than 130? Oh, sure, I am. Okay, so now at the 60-minute mark, Am I less than 140? Yes, I am. At the 60-minute mark, I'm supposed to be less than 130. So 60 minutes, 1 hour into this test of, is my insulin resistance going away or is it staying? Well, it's 160. Okay, way higher than it's supposed to be. It's higher than it was a half an hour ago. So then let's go to the 90-minute mark. Okay, at 90 minutes, it's supposed to be less than 110. So that's going to be at 6 o'clock, right? So 6 o'clock comes around, I'm 167. So despite having not eaten all day, right? I'm sure I was fasting here. I mean, I only use the word fasting when I get to 36 hours. So I'm sure I was time restricted eating. I'm going to eat supper with my husband on a Friday night. That's probably what I did. And I get to an hour and a half and I am still at almost 170 blood sugar. Okay, even if the lower one is correct, I'm still at 130. People without insulin resistance have a blood sugar less than 110 at this 90-minute mark. When I get out to 2 hours, I'm starting to do something naughty. This is where it gets really low, like 45. Now, whether 45 was correct or 60, we both agree that, yeah, it's the lowest it should. You can see it plummet. And that dip down is very dangerous. Not like I'm going to die, but I'm like, that's a sign there's pathology behind what I'm doing. Let's do a time of confession here. I'm going to change. There's a couple more examples. Maybe I should do that before I change that. We're going to do one more example before I go on. So go back to here. So let's go to the 19. Here was another, this is on Thursday, the night before. So whatever I was doing at 4:30, I get home and we're going to have supper as quickly as possible. And whether I grazed, I don't know. I mean, this is a slower slope. Maybe I was really hungry and I started eating before supper happened. But here's when I start to eat. By the time that meal is, so there is, 4:30. By the time 5:30 is there, we're at 1 hour. So it should be less than 130. And we're just right on the edge for one of those. But then you get out to that 90-minute mark and that's clearly not less than 110. Neither of those are less than 110. And this, you say, well, is this for a glucose tolerance test? No, this is for, am I eating, this is in September, am I eating properly enough to reverse my insulin resistance? And if you were watching the show at that time, you heard me say over and over and over again, is it ever possible? Have I seen people do this? And I'm like, yeah, but it's really hard. It's really hard. And I'm not a sissy. I'm willing to eat sardines and, do the kinds of things that, you have to do in order to get healthy. And yet I was eating in this narrow window, but whatever I was eating was sending my blood sugars up high enough that they could not get back down to what they should be, to what a person without insulin resistance looks like. So let me show you what my numbers are in recent days. So I'm going to go back in the last 7 days. So this is one of those moments of confession. Is today, yeah, we're going to go back to yesterday and show you that usually I fast from Sunday to Tuesday night. But last night, this was my numbers right before I started the show, which is a glucose of 70, ketones of 2.8, Dr. Bow's ratio of 23. I usually fast from Sunday till the show on Tuesday, but last night was the first time that I had guests come to my house. And I warned them, I fast on Mondays, but it's been a long time since I've even been tempted. We've been hurricane homeless. We finally are back in our house. We don't exactly have furniture, which I didn't think about until the guests got there. And I said, well, I'll have a charcuterie board for them and we'll just have a few snacks. We'll play some cards and we're going to do something that normal people with a house might do with I don't know, that sounds normal to me. So it was great until I got home and then I said, oh, I am not going to fast. I'm totally going to have a glass of wine with this lady that's come to my house, my first guest. I'm going to have some of this charcuterie board. And so it was little bitty pieces of meat that is very Italian. The people that were coming to our house are Italian. So I went to the Italian grocery store and got little cut up pieces of like bacon, but they're called something else. It's like prosciutto, and I air fried them so they're really crunchy, and I had them with some cheese. So really ketogenic is what I'm saying. There was no carbohydrates, and one glass of white wine, which was pretty light. And let me show you what my numbers were for last night. So let's go back to this one, not that one, website. There's one right here. All right, so let's just make sure you see that this is Monday, May 5th, 2025. I've been fasting, and so here's the numbers during the, I'm doing my day. I didn't put my CGM on till then, so I put one in. I didn't calibrate it right away either, but it's probably normal. This is probably what my blood sugars look like when I'm up and doing my life. And then it's 4:30. My husband comes to pick me up because we're one car's in the shop, and I am starting to I'm not eating right here. I still have a blood sugar where it's 90. I haven't eaten. I'm trying to be strong and not eat when these people come to my house. But that doesn't, this story gets a little harder to tell in a hot second here. So here is where I said, all right, forget it. I'm going to have some of this charcuterie board with you. And so that's at, 7 o'clock. Again, probably later than I like to eat, but I'm so happy these guests have come to my house. So that's at 6:45. My blood sugar is 85. I start to have some of that charcuterie board. By 7:45, we're at the hour mark. And notice that at 7:45, this is a very similar pattern to what was here last time, but look at what my blood sugar is at 7:45, 1 hour into this. Oh, it's following the rules of insulin resistance. That insulin resistance is only better if the blood sugar does not get, at the 30-minute mark, it should be less than 140. At the 60-minute mark, it should be less than 130. At the 90-minute mark, it should be less than 110. And by golly, that's what mine is. In the past, I've shared with many people, especially the pin chasers, that it wasn't the sexiest way to lose weight. I lost my house in a hurricane, and I haven't had a kitchen until just recently. And I have a pattern. I have stopped a few behaviors that I probably should have been able to stop long before I had a hurricane hit my house. But especially as you watch to see what does it look like for these patients who say, okay, I got out of the danger zone. My blood sugar is no longer 250. What will it take for me to reverse that completely? How do I get out of insulin resistance? Okay, we're going to cover that in just a hot second. We're going to do a paid commercial before we go to the rest of this lecture. And then, and by paid commercial, I mean, I've been telling you the last couple of weeks that Mother's Day is like a month away. It's not. It's next Monday, or next Sunday, excuse me. So if you have a mother in your life, and even if you have friends that are mothers, it's one of my favorite things to do. Let me go over here to website. Loom, there we go. This is bozmd.com, and if you go to the shop, you will see a pop-up come for Mother's Day. This glow serum is one of my favorite gifts to give any girlfriend of mine, but also for moms for Mother's Day, we've taken $50 off in hopes that you gift your mother this. It's gorgeous. It's lovely. It's the only thing I use on my skin. And especially that skin is made when you're healthy, when you're in a ketogenic state. I'm sure that's a big part of it. But I don't waste money on anything that doesn't actually penetrate my skin to keep that top layer of skin, which is dead, but the dead skin as plump and as moist and as youthful looking as possible. I love this. I love this. I love this. It is definitely not a ketogenic on brand. It's a pressed oil. It is, people, when they saw that there were seeds that you were pressing, they thought, you're the enemy. It's seed oil. I'm like, no, it's cold pressed oil. It's beautiful. It's great for topical skin, and it's not going to throw you out of ketosis. So that's one thing. The next thing I wanted to be, to show you was that you're going to see that CGM that I talked about in here, that in the past, I've had some, suggestions that you should use the CGM. When it was prescription, we found a way to do this process that is behind that little picture there, and that is a continuous glucose monitor is the coolest technology to see, is your glucose responding to the food you're eating in a way that is reversing your insulin resistance. That one of the conversations we had at the Pin Chasers this morning was, well, why would you want to have your glucose controlled? I mean, why would you want to, once your insulin is reversed, can't you just go back to eating the way you were? And I'm like, I don't know. What does your sugar say? If you would go ask me this question in September, before this improvement in my metabolism in the last year, I would have said, I'm not reversing insulin resistance, but it's the best I can do right now. And I hated it. I hated that I knew I would tell my patients those blood sugars have got to get down to 110 by 90 minutes. And when we can see that, it is a huge predictor that you're not headed for diabetes, even though your fasting sugars have gotten down and your ability to see medical problems reverse. What is hidden behind the danger of high insulin is what happens to your brain as you age. This is a huge motivator for me too. So I knew watching those blood sugars that I just showed you, like, that's not good. I should be better. I teach this. I should be better, but I'm human. So let's go back to these slides, and I'm going to show you what I want this gal to learn. Go to next slide. All right, so we're going to talk about something that most of you know about on this channel, and that is the Dr. Boz ratio. What the Dr. Boz ratio is really looking at is, are we is there autophagy present? These are the different ratios of, are they hitting autophagy? Are they recycling and using the debris around specifically your brain, to clean that up and reverse these chronic diseases of an aging brain? So if we get that Dr. Boz ratio less than 40, we're really confident you're in autophagy. If you get that Dr. Boz ratio between 40 and 80, we're pretty confident. Again, my number from today, even though I ate yesterday, the amount that I ate and the way I controlled my blood sugars during that, that off the rails, I didn't fast. I had friends over, and I don't regret it. I wish I wish I wouldn't have done it, but whatever. I actually don't wish I wouldn't have done it. I had fun. But my Dr. Boz ratio today is 23. That glucose is 70. That ketones were 2.8. And that is still, I don't use the word fasting until you get to 36 hours. So I'm not fasting. But here's the more important part. Why do I care about this Dr. Boz ratio with so many of my patients? And it is because of this. When you look at, I'm going to put this over here on the side because I think it's a little easier for you to read. Go over here. So when you look at the glucose along this side and the ketones along this, two of the things you guys can measure from your home, what we are approximating is that is insulin. Okay, so as this Dr. Boz ratio goes from 200 to 150 to 100 to 40, so goes the amount of insulin it's taking to get you that number. And even with a blood sugar of 140, mine was going up to 160 there on that example. Had I checked ketones then, my ketones would probably be 0.5, 0.6. But in the last season where I've just really taken the volume of food down, when I eat, it is very ketogenic. And I mean, I think it's been 6 weeks since I've had a glass of wine. I mean, really just don't do that. Don't go there. It's not doing me any favors. And it really messes up my numbers. So as I look at that improvement in insulin, we know that you can calculate what your approximate insulin level is by doing this Dr. Boz ratio. So for instance, when the blood sugar here was 150 and the ketones, you can't see on this level, but it's 0.5, that's the Dr. Boz ratio of 200. As that Dr. Boz ratio comes down, so does the amount of insulin. And when you do this little tip over where now they've got a blood sugar, in the 2 digits instead of 3 digits, and the ketones that are a little bit higher than 1, we have an insulin that is much less pathologic to control that metabolism. And our gal, we're going to show you her slide here in a second, is going to try to take her hemoglobin A1C from an insulin-resistant number. 6.5 is an insulin-resistant number, period. But she's going to try to take it to a non-insulin resistant number, which is closer to 5. And I hear from a lot of you saying, oh my gosh, that's so hard. Oh my gosh, that's so hard. And I'm like, yeah, it is. But it is possible. So take a look here. This was our gal who is today. She still has an impaired fasting glucose. She still has an impaired or an elevated amount of insulin when she's fasting, but it's way better than it was. Instead of shooting her blood sugar, her insulin super high, it's not as, this one right here, this one she's at right now, it's not as high. But this is what she's aiming for. So the first season that I see people struggle with is this fasting glucose. And that fasting glucose is something that I tried saying at the Pin Chasers this morning. Let's see if I can do a better job and not lose my audience. So I get the question, I'm only eating for 3 hours in the afternoon. My eating window is 3 hours. I start here, I stop here. I even have folks that are on the hormones of GLP-1 and GIP agonists. And you say, okay, you should be making good ketones. You should be having a reversal of insulin resistance, but you'll know by looking at, well, how does your blood sugar look before you eat in the afternoon? So it's this question that comes, so I'm thinking of the woman who's taken her A1C from 10 down to 6.5. What do I think is going to be the hardest thing for her to do? She wakes up in the morning, her blood sugar's not normal. Like, okay, so how do I get it normal? Well, the most important thing you're going to do is you're going to use that CGM to know if you should eat after 3 o'clock. Yeah, after 3 o'clock. This is the critical step for somebody who has insulin resistance, and it's not perfect, but they want to say, I want to undo it. I want to make this go away. I'm like, if it's 3 o'clock and your blood sugar is above 90, you don't have the space to eat. You don't have the endocrine to eat. Your hormones are not healthy enough to eat after 3 o'clock. And that's going to irritate a few people, but I'm 100% serious. If you're trying to reverse it, the best place to use that CGM is you don't eat after 3 o'clock if that blood sugar is not less than 90. But if you do eat, did you eat the right things? Do you eat too much protein, not enough fat? How many? I have all these questions. I'm like, I don't know. Ooh, look at this. Look at these slides. This will answer it for you. Go to here. So, all right. So there's the glucose. So now they eat. Well, did they eat? This is their insulin. That's healthy. Okay. So now as they look at that glucose, did they eat the appropriate amount of food for their level of pathology? Well, if they ate at 3 o'clock, because their blood sugar was less than 90, and at the 30-minute mark, they were less than 140, then you ate the right amount. Then you ate the right amount, the right volume, and you did not have too many carbohydrates. If that glucose at the 60-minute mark is less than 130, you're right, you ate the right amount. Good job. If that blood sugar is less than 110 at 90 minutes, you ate the right amount. And what is hidden behind all this is a tiny trickle of insulin that's going to be needed to keep that pattern, that lack of pathology. I'm telling you, this is hard. This is hard. This gal that's reaching for this, and again, I would pray for her to have the right outcomes. I see a bunch of you have some questions over here on the side. We're going to get to them, but let me just drive home the point for this gal that what usually happens. How did she get from average blood sugar of 250 down to average blood sugar of 140? Well, she has a narrow eating window. She eats early evening, like I was doing 10 months ago, which is 5:30, 6 o'clock. Let's eat, honey. I didn't have the endocrine for that. I didn't have the hormones for that. And I was clearly eating way too much if I was going to reverse insulin resistance. Yeah, reverse it. So then hurricane hits, all this stuff happens. But what I'm definitely forced to do is eat. I skipped a lot more meals in the evening. Like we made a rule, we're not going to be the people that eat out all the time. I just don't want to do that. I don't want that habit in my head. So hubby and I have both lost it's an appropriate amount of weight, but it's inappropriate to say, have a hurricane and do this. But in the meantime, take that, lemon, take that test and make it a blessing. Okay, so what do my numbers do when I eat now? I eat this really small amount, a few bites. We never have a steak and fat that we eat all of ourselves. It's too much. or it sends my blood sugars up to those numbers that are not reversible. And when I look at this gal who's trying to take her A1C down to the numbers, she's been eating, it's easier for folks to not eat in the morning and the afternoon. And I don't tell them to push that food into the morning until they get to this place where you have mastered a few of these other habits. And she wants to get that A1C down to 5. She wants to have the reversal of insulin resistance. That means when she wakes up in the morning, her blood sugars should be 75 to 80. They should be what my numbers are now. And the best way to know what they're doing is to look at them while you're sleeping. That doesn't happen when you wake up, it changes it, but that continuous glucose monitor will teach you that. In fact, what I tell my patients that are trying to reverse insulin resistant and they're in this zone, I'm like, get that continuous glucose monitor. It lasts for 10 days. The first 10 days of every month, you need to check yourself. Are you eating too much volume of food? Are you eating too late? And if your morning fasting sugars are not in that 70 to 80 range, less than 90 first thing in the morning, you're making insulin resistance. If when you eat, the 30 minutes is not less than 140, that 60 minutes is not less than 130, and that 90 minutes is not less than 110, whatever you ate was too much volume or too many carbohydrates for your endocrine, for your hormones. And don't take my word for it. Study you. The first 10 days of every month, that's what you should be looking at. And if you're trying to reverse insulin resistance, that is what it takes. All right. I am looking forward to see what you guys' questions are, because when I did this morning at the Pin Chasers, it was a little, I think I hurt them. Meaning everybody's brain was asking questions where I'm like, I might have not. So I did better this time, I think. Anybody from the Pin Chasers, if you can give me a review of what was it like compared to this morning. Let's get to these questions though. Again, Dr. Boz recommends pendulum glucose control to help lower glucose levels. The instructions say to take 1 capsule twice a day with meals. But if so this is the kind of things I have to put on my labels. I always tell them the iron one. To get approval on Amazon, that is such a tiny amount. You can eat way more liver than that and be fine. This is freeze-dried liver, which is like, if you're going to have one little chicken liver, it's probably, I think I did the calculate, like 9 or somewhere around a dozen capsules is one little chicken liver. Okay, so when the bottle says take 2, there's other things going on for these rules. What Pendulum is looking at when they say 2 capsules a day with meals. Yeah, they know that when you put it in with a meal, you're going to have less nausea. If they're normal, people that don't watch this channel, they're going to have some fiber in there, which is supposed to feed the little bacteria. Yeah, it doesn't matter. Your gut's going to figure it out. The best thing that you can do to restore that slime layer and restore that microbiome is eat less, have lower motility of that gut, less inflammation in that GI system. And the seeds that come with Pendulum, I'm so thankful this company exists, because I was a non-believer that anything had any science behind it before I found this company. And I have several people who, lots of, maybe hundreds of people, dozens for sure, that, we've never been able to get that diarrhea to go away until the volume of food was lower, their ketogenic state was lower. And the Pendulum puts the seeds into that step 1. So I'm not your doctor, but that's what I do with me and my patients. Teresa, oopsie, wrong button. Go back to questions. Teresa M writes in, how do we know for sure we are not insulin resistant anymore? Well, this is the perfect question. You can tell when they ask the questions early, this is what I'm supposed to have covered by this point. So don't, this is exactly what I tell my team to do. If I don't cover this, then I have a chance to shoot cleanup right here. So let me read the whole thing and then I'll get to it. Somebody has said that, hold on. Somebody has said that she stated in another video that when our morning glucose should be in the 60s. Okay. How quickly should we get back into ketosis just because we ate more meals or fewer carbs or a few carb meals than normal? Okay. So let's answer a couple of these questions at a time. So the first thing, I probably have said that a glucose of 60 in the morning is okay, because I talk about the first threshold. Like, where did the friend with A1C of 10 to A1C of 6.5, where is she at? She's trying to get those morning fasting sugars in the double digits. Is that healthy? Well, it's healthier than what she's been, but is that what non-insulin resistant patients look like? No, their blood sugars are 65 to 75 in the morning. So yes, 75, I think my blood sugars, if I go back for the last 10 days, not fasting days, just regular days, my blood sugars 65, 70. That's what it looks like when the volume of food is low enough that my weight is stable. I'm not losing weight. My ketones are, again, they churn pretty good around that 1.2 day in and day out. This is not like sometimes. They're pretty good there. They were not that last fall. They were not that. All right, so let's keep taking on these questions because there's a few stacked in here. Okay, so there's the 60s. Okay, how quickly should we get back into ketosis? This is actually something my team and I were talking about, and I tried to do the slide for this, but I didn't get done. Maybe we'll have it by next week. What does it look like when you have a continuous glucose monitor? They eat like what, like the numbers I showed you from last night. What would my ketone numbers look like? Well, when you eat, you make insulin. When insulin is around, the ketone production goes almost to zero. It doesn't mean that your circulation goes to zero. It means that the liver is not going to produce ketones while you're putting calories in. Even though it's a few carbs, and even though it's or maybe there's no carbs like last night, it's still going to shut off the production of ketones for the most part, like a pretty good number. In a healthy metabolic state, the ketones will trickle right back up within a couple hours. When I see patients say, I had chocolate cake or whatever, I didn't have chocolate cake in the fall. I would have too much food. And that too much food would tip over to this volume trigger that I shouldn't have had that much. Clearly, my numbers went way too high. My blood sugar of 180 2 hours after eating is not normal. That's not healthy. Even if the one Stello is 15 points different, it's all wrong. That's not okay. Healthy people get back into ketosis within a day of, a binge. One of the hardest parts to see play out in real life, IRL, my sons text me, is when they've used alcohol. And I was actually worried about that last night. I haven't had alcohol in weeks, and when I do, I don't want it. I just like, this is not helping me. I don't like how I feel the next morning. Whatever this used to do for me, it is not doing for me anymore. But for whatever reason, I enjoyed the company and I enjoyed playing cards, and I was so happy to have somebody to come to my house with running water. So I had that, and I was like, oh, I'm going to do this show tomorrow night, and my sugars are going to be okay, but my ketones are going to be terrible. But I've been practicing this for several months. And what my ketones, I'm sure they did go down to 0.6 or 0.7 when I was drinking the wine and I had that food. But within hours, it should be working its way back up to this baseline metabolism of what my ketones should be. And, this is something we've really learned by watching patients on their dashboards, in that, the augmentation of their metabolism by putting a microdosing of GLP-1s and GIP after they left the 21-day, after the 21-day course was over. And we can see that when they fall off the rails, if they hadn't had the GLP-1 on, it would have taken a lot longer to get back on there. But even with the help of that, it's not, they're back in ketosis the next day. They still are eating too late and volume of food that's too high. And how do I know? It's not an opinion. Look at their numbers an hour and a half after they ate. So let's see if I answered that question, because I kind of started ranting there. How quickly should one get back into ketosis just because they had a few more? So it should be rather quick. Healthy people get back in rather quick. I can see that last a lot longer with alcohol, and I see it last a lot longer with somebody who's like this patient we're talking about with an A1C of 10 now to 6.5. If she did a carb binge, it'd probably be a week before she got back into ketosis. I don't know. I haven't seen that in her, but it would not surprise me. I've seen it many times. All right. And then, or is that something we will never be able to do again because we are insulin resistant? This was the question this morning that got my attention, like, oh, I might have missed the boat. So we have several, probably, I don't know how many people come to the Pin Chasers, but there's a gentleman that's kind of new, and he is kind of on a season of doing really well. And as we talk about, well, once insulin resistance is fine, can't we just go back to eating the way we were? And I don't think I did a very good job this morning. I tried to say, in September, I would have wanted that. But there is some kind of tipping point, and I've seen this so many times that it's like, it's haunting, that when you're taking care of a process where you've done something for the hedonistic reasons, you've done it for the pleasure. This is so common with alcohol. So I would do alcohol addiction, and they would come into class, come into group for their recovery, and the judge sentenced them to our clinic. So they're not there because they want to be, but they have to get through, and they have to test sober, and they have to wear the ankle bar, whatever. And so it's the second or third week, and they're like, well, I'm sure I'll be able to drink beer eventually. I'm sure I'll be able to go back to boozing eventually. And everybody around the room knows that's a sign that the thinking is not right, that eventually the healthy ones, the ones that stay sober, they never end up with another DUI. They behave their way into better thinking, which is what I'm doing when I get that space where you don't eat anything at all. Call that intermittent fasting. Get your eating window down to 4 hours. And I don't really chirp at them that their eating window starts at 3 o'clock in the afternoon and goes till 7. It is not the best one. But it's the best they can do at that season. And the behavior that they're practicing, where they do abstinence for those 16 hours, or they get up in the morning, have black coffee, don't have any calories until 3 o'clock. Well, that's not nothing. They're definitely getting better. But that woman is going to stay at a hemoglobin A1C of 6.5, 6.3, 6.2 maybe, until she fixes this, until she takes that eating window that is producing way too much sugar, way too high a blood sugar, and she's using way too much insulin. She's going to have to slide it to sunrise. And then the volume of food that she eats. She shouldn't eat after 3 o'clock if her blood sugar does not go below 90. How's she going to know that? She's going to need a CGM. And if she can keep that rule, it's this new practiced behavior that will reward her staying out of the nursing home with dementia, going back to that physician and said, I don't need insulin. I hope she gets to say that to her doctor. Let's go back to ththis questions and see if this is a long question. I'm almost done. If we do not correct this insulin resistance, how often should we make sure that we get into ketosis for maintenance? Well, I contend, you want to keep giving your body a really good workout. The longer people go with a surge of ketones, the harder it is for them to do it, to find the joy in it. I fast every week. I know I didn't do it yesterday, but I fast every week because I want a solid workout for my mitochondria. I used to use that as an excuse that I could eat late on Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday, or Friday night. I've stopped doing that. It works out much better. I'm in ketosis most days. So should it be weekly, or should we still be checking our blood glucose daily? You should be checking your blood glucose daily if you're trying to reverse insulin resistance. I contend if you want the best numbers, you should be watching what your continuous glucose monitor wants. And if you're trying to reverse this, I would set the rule after 3 o'clock. If that number is not less than 90, you should not eat. You don't have the endocrine for it. Okay, last part of this question. Why would maintenance of recorded insulin resistance, what would maintenance of recovered insulin resistant look like living on a keto? Yeah, I think it's the images that I showed in that last one. All right, we've got quite a few questions here. We've got 4 minutes to the top of the hour. I'm going to try to get through some of these because I think they're really important questions. So thank you for sticking around. Can supplements or medications affect our insulin? If yes, what's the best way to test it if our bedtime supplement medications are affecting our insulin? Yeah, so first of all, great question. Another reason that I hop onto that bandwagon of saying, don't ask me, ask your body. And when you ask your body, it's going to look like, did the blood sugar stay in the double digits, especially below 90? Then you're reversing the insulin resistance. That's great. When you wake up in the morning and that fasting blood sugar is less than 90, you win. That's what we're trying for. But if you take a supplement and then you say, but it says take it with food, so then you have food at night, you don't have the endocrine for that. So I have some smarty pants in my family that are good at math, and they'll tell me things like, Mom, you don't have the math for this. They're trying to fight with me. But I'm doing the same thing. You don't have the endocrine for this. You want to take those supplements with food. You want to take those supplements at bedtime. If they stimulate your insulin, which you'll know because you'll have a high fasting blood sugar in the morning, don't do that. Get it before 3 o'clock. They're still going to go in you. If there's a lot more reasons why people say take with food than the supplement doesn't work if you don't take it with food. That's not it. So let's see, did I get that? So if supplements can't affect it, and the way you know is the glucose. The best part is if you have a continuous glucose monitor, you can see it rise. You can see the glucose rise after you take it. And it's not as common as people think, but I should say it the other way. It's not uncommon to find it, but it's not everybody that has that response. Okay, so Sam says, if our cortisol is high all the time, for the Dutch test, how does high cortisol affect insulin? Yep, you got to fix that. So I have friends, and I have several patients where they have gotten that, they've lost 100+ pounds. They have maintained, and they have some things in their life that are not resolved. Their bedtime is not routine. They do not sleep through the night. They carry a history or a trauma that haunts them, and they can't. Their body is on alert. And I tell them, you're not going to reverse these problems. I mean, you're as good as you're going to get until you fix that. Until you go see a therapist and really work on that trauma-informed care. You meet with your preacher and say, how do I resolve this worry in my mind? They're not something that you can usually unpack all by yourself. When I see people with high cortisol, the first thing I think of is something hurt them so deeply that their brain won't let them remember it, or they don't choose to remember it. They block it out. And that's a great, how do you get through the moment? But it is a tax on your metabolism that finding a way to the other side of that hurt is how you lower cortisol. You're not going to get the insulin to go away until you address it. You will stay overweight. You will stay out with high blood pressure. You will stay insulin resistant until you fix that. And I would like to say that there's exceptions to that, but I don't think there are. All right, Susan writes in, can we ever get to a place of healthy insulin reaction, or will we always? Yeah, I do believe that. I want some fries. Well, so that's the difference between the alcoholic who says, I'm going to have a beer someday. Somebody today in the group who's been coming a long time, and she is adorable, but she does not like to eat high fat, I think is what the problem is. And she goes, well, don't you eat vegetables? I think she's asked me this question like a dozen times. And I'm like, if I eat vegetables, they are green beans that are fresh, and I have 3 of them. And the truth is, I don't desire that. I don't want that anymore. I have eaten this way long enough that that's not on my must-have list. So do I say I never eat vegetables? I'm not that pure. But it's just not something that I think of. So when I see people, do I have to do this forever? Do I have to do this? I want those French fries. I'm like, well, wear a CGM and watch what your body does with that. It affects you way more than most people realize. And to me, seeing the numbers helps people kind of say, I'm not just talking to the other guy on this YouTube channel. I'm talking to you. And you'll know because of your numbers. Okay. So let's do can we ever... Oh, that's what we just did. Okay, David, how long, min, max, typical, does it take for fatty liver to dissipate, assuming I can keep a strict 20-gram carb? So this is again another hidden answer in a ketogenic diet, or in an insulin-resistant patient. Insulin-resistant patients all have fatty livers. Now, is it to the level where they have the diagnosis, where they can see it on ultrasound? I don't care. I mean, I do care, but that's not the point. You'll know you have a healthy liver when you wake up in the morning and that fasting glucose is 70-ish, plus or minus. And it's because the storage for the overnight glycogen has all been used. What has happened in a fatty liver is you went night after night after night without emptying it. And then you kept eating because it felt good, because those fries taste good. And your body will say, boy, this is our job, is to store this. And that volume of food has to get so small so that the top number at 30 minutes, you are less than 140 glucose. At 60 minutes, you're less than 130. At 90 minutes, you're less than 110. And when you eat low enough amount of food that you can do that, that's how you reverse insulin. That's how you reverse the fatty liver. All right. I'm going to call that a good night. Again, Mother's Day in 1 week. We really appreciate the support. Again, we bring you this free information because I love doing this, but I also, I can depend on those folks who support the channel by using some of the products. And if you have a mom or anybody that behaves like a mom in your life, I would love for you to bless her with what I think is my favorite gift. So see you next week, everybody. I'll be coming to you live from Tennessee next week. See you then.